The restaurant manager gave me a brief glance, a flicker of confusion in his eyes before he shook his head. "I'm sorry, miss, but I don't see any reservation under the name Rain Moreau." I blinked, standing still for a few seconds, trying to stay composed. That can't be. I was invited to dinner with my husband's family. They should already be here. The manager glanced again at the screen. "There's a party of 6 under Mrs. Vivian Duval, but I'm afraid—" A cold, sarcastic female voice cut him off. "Oh, Rain, did you really think I would invite you?" I turned around and saw my mother-in-law, Vivian, just a few steps away, her expensive Chanel outfit like armor, her gaze brimming with superiority. Behind her sat my husband, Mark, gripping his wine glass, eyes avoiding mine. Next to him were his sisters, Giselle and Camille, whispering and giggling. A sharp pain pierced my chest, but I swallowed it down, kept my voice calm. "I don't understand." Vivian tilted her head, her smug smile widening. "Oh, darling, I didn't actually think you'd show up." She giggled, as if I'd just told a third-rate joke. "This is a family dinner. A place like this, well, it might be a bit beyond your reach, don't you think? A diner might suit you better." Camille let out a soft chuckle over her cocktail. Giselle avoided my gaze. And Mark, he just sat there gripping his fork tightly, saying nothing. I could feel the humiliation tightening around me, the air so thick with judgment it felt almost solid. A few diners at nearby tables started to glance over. I should have seen this coming. For years, Vivian had made it abundantly clear I didn't belong. I wasn't born into an old money family like hers, hadn't studied at the elite schools, hadn't grown up wrapped in entitlement. Ever since Mark and I got engaged, she never missed a chance to remind me of my place, on the margins. From backhanded comments about my modest tastes, to forgetting, to invite me to gatherings, to showering Mark with luxury while offering me nothing but a frosty smile. But tonight, she escalated things. A family dinner at Belvoir's most exclusive restaurant. A place designed to make me feel like a misfit among the elite, if I allowed it. And she was enjoying every second of it. I should have felt ashamed, diminished. But instead, something inside me shifted. I smiled, a deliberate, slow smile, and saw a flicker of unease in Vivienne's eyes. I turned to the maître d'. "Would you kindly ask Mr. Laurent, the owner, to come out?" My voice was calm, assured. Vivienne scoffed. "You really think the owner's going to come out here just because you asked?" I looked at her, voice smooth. "Yes. Because he knows me quite well." And in that moment, I knew this evening would not end the way she'd planned. Vivian kept her haughty expression, but I saw it, a flicker of doubt in her eyes. She had spent years treating me as an outsider, but tonight she had taken her petty games to a level of public humiliation, in front of my husband, his sisters, and a packed restaurant. The air around us was thick with anticipation, but I stood my ground, refusing to let her win. The restaurant manager hesitated, clearly torn about whether to follow my request. But before he could respond, a deep male voice cut through the tension. "Rain." I turned to see Laurent Dumas, owner of the upscale restaurant L'Éclat, approaching. In his early 50s, Laurent embodied composed elegance, neatly combed, silver-streaked hair, a tailored Italian suit, and the poised demeanor of someone who once led Michelin-starred kitchens. Vivian's eyes widened when she noticed how he looked at me, not with indifference, but with heartfelt warmth. "Laurent," I greeted with a smile. "It's been a long time." His gaze swept past Vivienne, then Mark and his sisters, before settling on me. "Indeed. What brings you here tonight?" I gestured toward the table where Nathan's family sat. Their expressions had shifted from curiosity to guarded confusion. "It seems my name isn't on the reservation list," I said calmly. "A minor oversight, perhaps?" Laurent's eyes briefly darkened, as if catching my implication. But then he offered a polite, composed smile. "That simply won't do." Vivienne crossed her arms and scoffed. "Ridiculous. You think she gets special treatment? This is a private establishment, not some walk-in diner." Laurent's expression remained unchanged. "You're absolutely right, Mrs. Duval," he said smoothly. "We do not accommodate unreserved guests." I felt a flicker of disappointment, but before I could say anything, Laurent turned to the manager. "But Rain is not a walk-in. She's family." The air around the table froze. Camille's glass trembled slightly. Giselle stared at me and Laurent in disbelief. "Mark." He gripped his cutlery without a word. Vivienne, of course, wasn't having it. She let out a laugh like she'd just heard the worst joke imaginable. "Family? Come on. Rain is just my son's wife. She has nothing to do with—" I cut her off. "Laurent and I go way back." I leaned slightly forward, voice loud enough for the nearby table to overhear. "Before marrying Mark, I worked in fine dining. Laurent mentored me early in my career." The whole table sank into stunned silence. Vivienne seemed ready to retort, but Laurent gently silenced her with a smile devoid of warmth. "Rain wasn't just an employee," he said steadily. "She was my student at Lagarde Culinary Academy. I personally trained her in service and culinary standards. She was one of the finest I ever had." Vivienne's face tightened. I saw it clearly. This was a part of my past she had no control over. A past that now made her little performance crumble. And I wasn't finished. I turned to the manager. "I believe Laurent's word is enough for me to have a seat, isn't it?" The manager immediately straightened. "Of course, Ms. Rain. I'll have it ready right away." Vivienne's face flushed red. She hissed, "This is absurd. Favoritism because she was a student?" Laurent chuckled. "Not because she was, but because she earned it." A waiter promptly set a place beside Mark. "Oh," I said, feigning surprise. "So there was a spot available." Vivienne gripped the tablecloth tightly. "Ridiculous." I leaned closer, voice low. "What's ridiculous is thinking you could humiliate me without consequence." Her face tightened. "You're being dramatic." I shrugged. "Just having dinner with the family, as you invited." Before Vivienne could reply, Laurent added, "I'll have the chef prepare something special for you, Rain." Vivienne gaped. "Special?" Laurent smiled. "Of course, on the house." Vivienne was now practically seething, but powerless. Mark remained silent, reaching for his wine glass, but I caught a glimpse of something on his face. Was it relief? Shame? Guilt? I wasn't sure. But I was sure of one thing. This dinner was just beginning, and Vivienne Duval was going to regret ever thinking she could push me aside so easily. A silver plate arrived with a beautifully crafted amuse-bouche. Vivienne couldn't hide her fury. "Oh," I said, delicately slicing with my fork. "Simply exquisite." I tasted, not just the food, but the tension hanging in the air. Nathan remained silent, eyes fixed on his wine glass as if it held all the answers. Vivienne, however, wasn't one to accept defeat. She calmly sipped her wine, then set her glass down a little too firmly. Vivienne set the glass down forcefully. "You must know a lot of people in the service industry." I raised an eyebrow. "Service industry?" Vivienne shrugged. "Kitchens, waiting tables. Not exactly our family's domain." Ah, so that's what this was. Not just exclusion, but a reminder of where I came from. I took another sip. "You say that like it's something shameful." Alina blinked, maybe even a flicker of surprise. Perhaps she thought I'd waver, but no, not anymore. Must have taken you a while to adjust to a family like this. I just mean, she continued, voice light but words sharp. It must have taken a while to adjust when you married into a family like this. The words were light, but the blade behind them was sharp. Mark still said nothing. Vivian's smile grew wider. I turned to look at him, sensing the avoidance in his eyes. And then I realized this wasn't just about his mother's cruelty. This was about his silence. This wasn't the first time Vivian had embarrassed me. She had done it at our wedding, when she accidentally forgot to invite my family to the rehearsal dinner. She had done it at Christmas, when she gifted me the book, The Recipe for a Clumsy Wife, in front of the whole family. And last summer, when she mocked me saying I was lucky to be accepted by Mark. But this time was different. This wasn't just a sarcastic remark. This was a well-thought-out plan to publicly humiliate me, and he let it happen. I slowly and decisively put my glass down. Then I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. Vivian, I said, my voice low and smooth, do you know what the difference between you and me is? She tilted her head, her gaze full of curiosity. I smiled, raising an eyebrow. I've earned everything I have on my own. A stunned silence hung in the air. Alina's face froze. What did you say? I didn't blink. You heard me. Charlotte paused, her breath catching. Emma bit her lip. Vivian struggled to suppress a mocking laugh. Are you implying that I didn't work for what I have? I let the question hang in the air, and just as she was about to make a biting reply, I continued. I didn't marry for money. I didn't inherit status. I built my career from the ground up. And yet, I gestured toward the table. We're sitting in the same restaurant, eating the same food, and being treated with the same respect. Vivian's fingers tightened around her napkin, her knuckles turning white. Camille and Giselle stopped laughing. Mark, on the other hand, looked like he wanted to disappear. For the first time since meeting Vivian, I saw something flicker in her eyes. Not anger, but fear. She had spent years convincing herself that I wasn't worthy, that I was beneath her, that I was just using her son. But now, she was starting to realize the truth. And the truth was, I wasn't someone she could push around. I picked up my fork and slowly cut my food. Oh, and Vivian. She exhaled sharply through her nose, clearly annoyed that I had taken control of the conversation. What? I smiled, slow and deliberate. You should be careful about looking down on others. I speared a bite and took my time chewing before adding. You never know who might rise above you. The atmosphere in the restaurant became stifling. Vivian, who usually prided herself on being composed and in control, sat motionless, gripping her glass tightly. Mark remained silent, while Camille and Giselle exchanged looks, as if trying to figure out how to intervene. As for me, I had never felt more in control of my position than I did right then. I could see it in Vivian's eyes. The mask of arrogance she wore was beginning to crack. Vivian took a deep breath, trying to regain her composure, and placed her glass down with a soft but deliberate clink. I get it, she said, her voice smooth, yet fake. I think I should congratulate you, CLA. You've really managed to lift yourself up out of your circumstances. I took another sip of wine, not showing any reaction. But tell me, she continued, her lips curling into a sickly sweet smile. If you're so independent, so self-sufficient, then why is my son the one paying for your lifestyle? I paused. Charlotte gasped softly. Giselle shifted uncomfortably. Mark? He flinched. Vivian's smile sharpened. She could feel everyone's gaze shifting to me, waiting for my response. I slowly put my glass down, every movement deliberate and intentional. "What do you mean?" I asked, pretending to be confused. Vivian leaned in, her voice dropping to a mocking whisper. "What I mean, sweetheart, is that your son is the reason you get to have your cute little job at the boutique, right? You don't really need to work. But you play this charade like you actually have a career. How charming." She tilted her head, the victorious smile back on her face. "You talk about independence, but in the end, you're still just living off my son." And that was her final card. The calculated insult meant to crush me completely, to put me back in my place. I let her words hang in the air, feeling Mark still unwilling to look at me, his siblings holding their breath, waiting for me to collapse. And then I laughed. Not a shy, nervous laugh, but a real full-throated laugh. Vivienne's smile faltered. "Sorry, is something funny?" I placed my napkin on the table, still laughing. "I just realized, Vivienne, you're really out of touch." Her eyes narrowed. "What?" I gestured toward Adam, my voice calm and clear. "You think he's paying for me?" I raised an eyebrow. "How adorable," Camille gasped. Giselle's jaw dropped. Mark turned pale. Vivienne's smile vanished in an instant. "What are you talking about?" I sighed, almost feeling pity for her. "You still see Adam as your little boy, don't you? The man who controls, who provides, who saved me from my ordinary life." I tilted my head. "But let me tell you something, Vivienne. This marriage doesn't operate the way you think." Vivienne stiffened. "Do you know what's funny?" I continued. "Half of Mark's investment projects are funded with my money." A stunned silence filled the table. Vivienne's eyes went wide, as if her entire world was collapsing around her. "No way," she whispered. I smiled, this time without any warmth. Mark didn't build his career on his own. I still looked at him, but spoke to Vivienne. When he wanted to start investing, he didn't have the capital. I did. Vivienne's fingers twitched. "No way," I shrugged. "Believe whatever you want, but the truth is, your son's success was built on investments, strategies, and support from me." Camille and Giselle exchanged glances, looking toward Mark for confirmation. But Mark remained silent, motionless. I shook my head. "You thought you could humiliate me by labeling me as a housewife living off him? How laughable." "Because the truth is, Vivienne, Mark needs me, a lot more than I need him." Vivienne's face flushed red. I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. "You've spent all these years trying to make me feel like I don't belong here, but the truth is, I'm the one holding this marriage and your precious family's reputation, together." Giselle looked like she might faint, and Camille didn't dare look me in the eye. Vivienne just sat there, no longer armed with any ammunition. Then Mark finally spoke up. "Rain," he said in a hoarse voice, "maybe we should—" I raised my hand, cutting him off. "No, Mark," I said firmly. "You don't get to say maybe we should right now, not after sitting there silently while your mother tried to humiliate me." Vivienne looked at him, realizing for the first time that her golden son was truly weak, and suddenly she no longer had pride in him. For the first time, she looked at him as if he were small, as if he had failed to meet her expectations, as if he had disappointed her. A sweet reversal. I stood up, smoothing my dress. "I think I'm done here." Vivienne's nostrils flared with anger. "You can't just—" I turned to Laurent, who was still observing from a polite distance. "Laurent, it's great to see you. Thanks for your hospitality." Laurent nodded, a slight amusement in his eyes. "It's always a pleasure to see you, Rain." Then I turned to Mark. "Are you coming?" He hesitated, looking at me, then at his mother. And in that moment, I knew. I knew exactly what he would do. Because Mark had never chosen me before, and he wasn't going to start now. Vivian smiled, victorious. And I smiled back. Because she didn't know that I had made my choice too. And soon enough, she would regret trying to teach me my place, because I was about to show her and Adam just how strong I truly was. Mark didn't follow me. I didn't expect him to. As I stepped out of the restaurant, the cool night breeze brushed against my skin, but I hardly felt it. My mind was sharp, clear. Tonight was the long-delayed wake-up call, a moment of truth woven together over the years, and now it was time to act. I pulled out my phone, my fingers steady as I typed a message. Me, we proceed. Start the process tomorrow morning. Just seconds later, the reply came. Lawyer. Understood. The first draft of the divorce agreement will be ready by noon tomorrow. I exhaled slowly, my eyes fixed on the screen. Divorce. That no longer scared me. What scared me was how long I had ignored the truth, that Mark had never stood by my side, that for all these years I had been alone in my marriage. But no more. Tonight was the final push I needed. As for Vivian, she had no idea that I was about to turn her carefully constructed world upside down. I got home before Mark, giving me just enough time to do what needed to be done. First, I went into the study, the room Mark used for his investments. I opened the safe. The code, he had never changed it. A mistake. Inside were all the financial documents, bank statements, investment portfolios, business agreements, and what I cared most about, the contract binding his most lucrative investment with my initial capital. I picked it up, skimming through the familiar legal jargon. This was proof that I was the financial backbone of his empire. Vivian thought her son was the family's business genius. Without me, he was nothing. I quickly snapped a photo of the contract, then returned it to its rightful place. No need to take it with me. I had what I needed. Next, I went into the bedroom. I pulled out my suitcase and began packing, not in anger, not in a rush, but with absolute clarity. This was not an impulsive decision. This was a calculated retreat. When Mark walked in, I was sitting on the sofa, suitcase beside me, waiting. He froze at the door, looking at me as if unsure he was in the right house. "Rain," he said, his head tilting. "Where are you going?" I stood up, calm, in control. Mark's mouth slightly opened, but no words came out. "You've made your choice, Mark," I said softly. "Right there at the restaurant, when your mother humiliated me and you just sat there." His jaw tightened. "I was just trying to keep the peace." "Peace? Mark? Your mother planned the whole evening just to embarrass me. She made a reservation but purposely left me off the list. She humiliated me, trying to make me feel unworthy. And you just sat there, like you always do." I stepped closer, seeing him shrink under my gaze. "And you let her do it, like you always have." He rubbed the back of his neck, clearly uncomfortable. "It's complicated, Rain. You know how she is." I sighed. "No, Mark. It's very simple. You're weak." His eyes met mine, offended, but it was the truth. "You've let your mother dictate how you treat me throughout this marriage. I've been patient, Mark. I gave you so many chances, but tonight," I shook my head. "Tonight, I finally saw who you really are." Mark swallowed hard. "Rain, let's talk about this more." I sighed. "The thing is, there's nothing left to say." I grabbed the suitcase and walked past him. And just as I touched the doorknob, "I'm not going to let you walk out of here that easily." I turned around. "What?" Mark's face darkened, his voice low. "If you think you'll walk out of this marriage with half the assets, you're wrong." I looked at him for a moment, then smiled. Oh, Mark, I said. You really have no idea what I'm holding, I said gently. His face flickered with confusion, eyes darting as he tried to process what he'd just heard. What? I cut in, voice flat and cold. You wouldn't have half of what you own if it weren't for me. You built that so-called financial empire with my money. And you know what? I paused, letting the silence cut through like a blade. I have the documents to prove it. His face turned pale. I stepped closer, my voice low, hammering into his fear. I funded you, Mark. I trusted you. But now, I smiled slowly. Now I want it all back. Mark stepped back, as if reality had punched him in the chest. He thought he could control me with indifference. He was wrong. He froze at the kitchen entrance, jaw clenched, hands gripping the counter like it could stop his world from collapsing. He opened his mouth, maybe to beg, maybe to spin a familiar excuse, but I didn't give him the chance. I'll be staying in the Alara Heights penthouse, I said, adjusting the strap on my shoulder. What penthouse? He frowned. I tilted my head, smiling. The one you thought belonged to you. His face shifted from confused to horrified. The downtown one? It's under my name. I had my lawyer check this morning. It was never yours. His nostrils flared. You wouldn't... He trembled. I tossed an envelope onto the counter. He hesitated for a moment before opening it, his eyes scanning the legal document inside, his hands trembling. He opened it, nearly gasping. This says, you own 51% of the firm. Exactly. I nodded, eyes locked on him. This can't be... It can. I was the original investor. You just assumed I transferred ownership because you never read the fine print. I watched panic spread in his eyes like ink in water. Rain, he stammered. Why are you doing this? I took a deep breath. Because I finally realized my worth. He staggered back, gripping the edge of the counter as if he were losing his balance. This was the man who had let his mother humiliate me, who had sat there in cowardly silence as she tried to strip me of my dignity. And now he was the one left powerless. I don't understand, he muttered. Why? Why are you doing this? And for the first time in years, I felt completely, undeniably free. Because, Adam, I said, I finally see my worth. I turned around and walked away, never looking back. A month later, I sat in the penthouse, legs crossed, champagne in hand. My lawyer smiled, sliding the finalized divorce papers across the table. Congratulations, you're officially free. I exhaled slowly, fingertips brushing the thick stack of paper. Free. The past weeks had been a storm. Mark threatened to sue, but it all crumbled the moment my majority ownership was confirmed. The moment my lawyer laid out the documents proving I was the true majority shareholder in his firm, Mark's arrogance crumbled. His mother, Vivienne, called me, fuming. I simply said, maybe you should have raised him better. Then I blocked her. I raised my glass just as my phone buzzed, and as if the universe wanted to give me one last laugh. Mark, can we talk? I set the glass down and typed. About what? A pause. Then, Mark, I don't know what to do anymore. I let out a soft laugh. All those years I waited for him to grow up, but he never did. I had waited for him to stand up for me, to confront his mother, to fight for me the way I had fought for him, and now he needs me more than ever. He was a man who had spent his whole life hiding behind the power of others, too weak to build anything of his own. But me? I didn't need him at all. I typed the final message. Me. That's no longer my concern. Then I blocked him, because for the first time in my life, I chose me. and that was the most powerful thing I've ever done.